I gave my disabled grandmother a $3 million apartment, then my stepfamily changed the locks and threw her belongings out. So I called my lawyer, filed trespassing charges, and had them all arrested on Christmas Day. Hey lovely people. Subscribe to be part of this family and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. With that, let's continue the story. I was in the middle of a board meeting when my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. 3 missed calls from Grandma Joanne's nurse. My stomach dropped. At 78 with advanced MS, every call about her sent my heart racing. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway, my hands trembling as I dialed back. Miss Jordan, you need to come now, Patricia's voice cracked. They changed the locks. Your grandmother's belongings are on the sidewalk. She's sitting in her wheelchair in the cold, crying. The world tilted. What? Who changed the locks? Patricia, I own that apartment. Your stepmother and her children. They say it's theirs now. They're inside laughing, drinking champagne. Your grandmother has been out here for 2 hours. I didn't know what else to do. I was already running to my car. The $3 million penthouse apartment I'd purchased specifically for Grandma Joanne, the woman who raised me when my mother died, who worked 3 jobs to put me through college, who never asked for anything, was being stolen. By my father's new family. The same family he'd married into just 18 months after Mom's death. Call the police, Patricia. No. I'm 20 minutes away. As I sped through traffic, my mind raced back to 3 months ago when I'd handed Grandma Joanne those keys. Her tears of joy. Her trembling hands. Baby, you didn't have to do this. You deserve the world, Grandma. This is just the beginning. I should have known. I should have seen what my stepfamily was planning. My name is Lillian Jordan, and 6 months ago I was on top of the world. At 32, I'd built a tech consulting firm from nothing into a multi-million-dollar enterprise. Forbes featured me. My father, Robert Jordan, finally seemed proud after years of emotional distance following Mom's death. Then he married Victoria. Victoria was everything my mother wasn't: cold, calculating, obsessed with wealth. She brought 2 adult children into our lives. Byron, 35, a failed entrepreneur who'd bankrupted 3 businesses, and Shannon, 29, whose only job was spending her mother's money. Within months, they'd moved into my childhood home with Dad. I tried to be welcoming. Family dinners. Including them in celebrations. But I noticed things. How they inventoried Dad's belongings. How Victoria asked detailed questions about his assets. How they treated Grandma Joanne with barely concealed contempt when she visited. She's from the old generation, Victoria said once, wrinkling her nose when Grandma Joanne asked for help cutting her food. Maybe she should be in a facility. That's when I knew I had to act. Grandma Joanne had lived in a small assisted living apartment, but she deserved better. She'd sacrificed everything for me. So I bought the penthouse. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, fully accessible with a stunning view. I hired Patricia full-time as her nurse. I made sure Grandma Joanne would spend her final years in comfort. I just never imagined my own family would try to take it from her. I arrived to find my worst nightmare made real. Grandma Joanne sat hunched in her wheelchair on the December sidewalk, Patricia's coat wrapped around her shoulders. Beside her, trash bags stuffed with her belongings. Her clothes, her photos, her medical equipment, were strewn across the concrete like garbage. Grandma. I fell to my knees beside her. Her face was tear-streaked, her lips almost blue from cold. Lillian, baby, I'm so sorry. I tried to stop them. I told them you owned it, but they said, her voice broke into sobs. Shoo, it's okay. I'm here now. I looked up at Patricia, who was furious. They came at noon with a locksmith. Said they had legal authority. When I called you, they started throwing things out the window. Her medication, Lillian. They threw her medication. I stood slowly, rage building in my chest like a living thing. Through the penthouse window I could see them. Byron, Shannon, and Victoria holding wine glasses, pointing at something and laughing. In my grandmother's home. 2 police officers were already there, looking uncertain. Ma'am, they claim they have documentation proving ownership. I have documentation too. This is my property. I purchased it outright 8 months ago. I pulled up my phone, showing them the deed, the closing documents, everything. These people are trespassing. My grandmother is the legal resident. They've committed elder abuse, trespassing, and theft. The younger officer's face changed. We'll need to see their documentation. Do it. And while you're at it, call for backup and an ambulance. My grandmother needs medical attention. Getting into that apartment felt like storming a castle. The officers knocked, and after 5 minutes, Byron finally opened the door, reeking of expensive cologne and arrogance. Can I help you, officers? He smiled like he didn't have a care in the world. Sir, we need to see documentation proving you have legal right to be here. Of course. He disappeared inside while Victoria appeared in the doorway, her eyes landing on me with pure venom. Lillian. How dramatic of you to call the police. This is a family matter. You threw my disabled grandmother into the street, I said, my voice deadly calm. Her medication is scattered on the sidewalk. This became criminal the moment you changed those locks. This apartment belongs to your father now. Therefore it belongs to his family, his real family. That old woman has been a burden long enough. The officer beside me stiffened. Even he was shocked. Byron returned with a folder, looking smug. Inside was a quitclaim deed, supposedly signed by me, transferring the property to my father. Dated 2 weeks ago. My signature, or a very good forgery, was at the bottom. My blood ran cold. That's fraud. I never signed that. Prove it, Victoria smiled. Your father has been concerned about your mental state lately. The stress of your business. He mentioned you'd been making erratic decisions. Giving away expensive properties to people who don't need them. The manipulation was breathtaking. You forged my signature. That's a felony. Bold accusation, Byron laughed. From someone who's clearly unstable. My client has never been more stable. The voice came from behind us. James Tuskegee, my lawyer and friend since law school, stood there with his briefcase and his trademark calm expression. I'd called him from the car. And if you're claiming she signed that document 2 weeks ago, we have a problem. Lillian was in Singapore 2 weeks ago, keynoting a conference. With about 500 witnesses, including 3 senators and a Supreme Court justice. Time-stamped photos. Video. Customs records. I watched the color drain from Byron's face. Victoria's smile faltered. James continued, moving past them into the apartment. I'm also seeing what appears to be elder abuse, illegal eviction, theft of personal property, and forgery. Officers, I strongly suggest you secure this scene as a crime scene. Now wait just a minute, Victoria started. No, you wait. Something inside me snapped. All the years of trying to be understanding. Trying to help Dad move on. Trying to welcome these parasites into our lives. That woman outside raised me. She worked herself to exhaustion to give me opportunities. She never asked for anything. And when I finally had the means to give her comfort, I pointed at Victoria, you decided she was disposable. You forged documents, you assaulted a disabled elderly woman, and you thought you'd get away with it because you married my father. Your father agreed to this. Victoria shouted, mask finally slipping. He signed off on everything. He said that old woman didn't deserve a $3 million apartment when his real family was struggling. The confession hung in the air. The officers exchanged glances. So Dad knew. My voice came out flat hollow. All the pieces suddenly made horrible sense. He knew you were going to do this. Victoria realized her mistake too late. I didn't mean. Where is he? I demanded. Where's my father? At home, Shannon said quietly from the couch. She'd been silent until now and she looked uncomfortable. He didn't want to be here when we did it. Coward. My father, who I'd tried so hard to connect with after Mom died, who'd grown distant and cold, had orchestrated this. Or at least allowed it. Against his own mother. James put a hand on my shoulder. Lillian, let's focus on what we can control right now. He was right. I turned to the officers. I want them arrested. All 3 of them. I want charges filed for elder abuse, fraud, trespassing, and theft. I want a restraining order filed today. Lillian, be reasonable, Byron tried. This is your family. Do you really want to tear your family apart over a misunderstanding? You tore this family apart when you threw an elderly disabled woman onto the street in December. Patricia's voice rang out. She'd come up with Grandma Joanne, who the paramedics were examining. I documented everything. I have videos, timestamps, photos. I watched you laugh while throwing her medication out the window. You called her a useless old hag when she begged you to let her get her heart pills. Byron's face went white. You're lying. Am I? Patricia held up her phone. Should I play it for the officers? Patricia's video was damning. Crystal clear footage of Byron and Shannon throwing Grandma Joanne's belongings out the window while Victoria directed them like a conductor. The audio was worse. Their laughter. Their cruel jokes. Victoria's voice. Make sure to throw out all those ugly photos. We're redecorating. But the worst moment, the one that made even the hardened police officers look away, was Grandma Joanne's voice, small and frightened, begging them to at least let her get her medications. And Byron's response, "You've lived long enough anyway, old woman. Maybe this is God's way of saying it's your time." The officers arrested them right there. Miranda rights read in my grandmother's living room. Victoria screamed about lawyers and injustice. Byron tried to claim the video was edited. Shannon just cried, saying she didn't want to do it, her mother made her. "You're 30 years old," I told her coldly as they cuffed her. "You made your choice." As they were led away, Victoria turned to me with pure hatred. "Your father will never forgive you for this. You're choosing that old woman over your own father. You'll regret this, Lillian. Family is everything and you just destroyed yours." "No," I said quietly. "You destroyed it. You just didn't expect anyone to fight back." After they were gone, I finally allowed myself to break. James caught me as my knees buckled. "She's right though," I whispered. "Dad was part of this. How do I come back from that?" "One step at a time," he said gently. "Right now, let's get your grandmother home." It took 4 hours to clean up the apartment and get Grandma Joanne settled. Patricia stayed, refusing to leave. I ordered dinner for all of us, but none of us could eat. We just sat in the living room, processing what had happened. "I should have told you sooner," Grandma Joanne said finally, her voice weak. "About your father." "Told me what?" I pulled my chair closer to her. She looked at me with those tired, knowing eyes. "Baby, your father changed after your mama died. Grief does that sometimes. But it's more than that. He's weak. Always has been. Your mama was his backbone. Without her, he's just hollow. Grandma, you don't have to." "Yes, I do." She gripped my hand with surprising strength. When Victoria came around, I saw it immediately. She's a predator. Found a wounded, wealthy man and sank her teeth in. And your daddy, he let her because it was easier than being alone. Easier than remembering what he lost. But you're his mother. How could he allow them to do this to you? Because Victoria convinced him I was in the way. That I was a reminder of his old life, his dead wife, his responsibilities. She wanted everything your mama built with him. The house, the money, the status. And I was just inconvenient. Tears rolled down her weathered cheeks. "But you, baby. You're your mama's daughter through and through. Strong. Principled. You fight back." I thought about my mother then. Dr. Sarah Jordan, the brilliant surgeon who'd balanced career and family with grace. Who'd taught me to stand up for what's right. Who'd loved Grandma Joan like her own mother. "Mom would be ashamed of him," I whispered. "Yes," Grandma Joanne agreed. "Yes, she would." My father called at midnight. I stared at his name on my screen for 5 rings before answering. "Lillian." His voice was tight, controlled. "We need to talk." "Do we?" "Because it seems like you said everything you needed to say when you approved throwing your own mother into the street." Silence. "Then, it wasn't supposed to happen like that. Victoria said they were just going to talk to her, convince her to move to a smaller place. The penthouse is excessive for one person. So you did know." The confirmation still hurt even though I'd known. "Dad, they threw her belongings out like trash. They made her sit in the cold for 2 hours. She could have died." "Don't be dramatic, Lillian. You always exaggerate." There was the same dismissiveness I'd felt for years. "I have video evidence. The police have it too. Your wife and her children are facing felony charges. Because you called the police on your own family. His voice, Joanne. You humiliated us. Everyone will know. My colleagues, my friends. Do you understand what you've done to my reputation? Your reputation? I laughed bitterly. 3 people committed elder abuse and fraud, and you're worried about your reputation? That apartment should have gone to Victoria's children. They need help getting started. Your grandmother doesn't need luxury. She needs basic care. You were being irresponsible, throwing money around to assuage your guilt. By guilt? Guilt for what? For abandoning us after your mother died. For building your company instead of being here. For choosing your career over family. The accusation hung between us, and suddenly I was 18 again, trying desperately to connect with a father who'd gone cold and distant. You want to talk about Mom's death? My voice shook with rage. Fine. Let's talk about it. I was 18, Dad. 18 years old when she died, and you checked out. You stopped being a father. Grandma Joanne stepped in because you couldn't handle it. She raced me through college while you buried yourself in work and self-pity. You don't understand what I lost. I lost her too. She was my mother. But I didn't have the luxury of falling apart because I was still a child who needed a parent. I was shouting now, years of pain pouring out. And when I finally succeeded, when I built something that made Mom proud, you suddenly came back around. Not because you loved me, but because I was successful. Because I had money. And then you found Victoria, and suddenly I wasn't even useful anymore. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time you called me just to ask how I was? When's the last time you acknowledged Mom's death anniversary? When did you last visit her grave? Silence. Victoria told you to stop, didn't she? She's been erasing Mom from your life piece by piece, and you let her because it's easier than remembering. Easier than feeling. Lillian, please. Grandma Joanne is the only real parent I've had for 14 years. She's the one who came to my college graduation when you were too busy. She's the one who celebrated every business milestone. She's the one who still talks about Mom with love instead of treating her memory like a disease. My voice broke. So yes, I gave her a $3 million apartment. I give her everything I have. Because she earned it. She loved me when you couldn't. The next 3 weeks were a legal whirlwind. James filed charges. The district attorney, horrified by the video evidence, took the case immediately. Victoria hired expensive lawyers who tried every tactic, claiming Grandma Joanne was incompetent, that I'd coerced her, that the whole thing was a misunderstanding. But Patricia's video was irrefutable. Bail was set high. Victoria made it. Byron and Shannon didn't. They sat in county jail, and part of me felt a savage satisfaction knowing they were uncomfortable. Dad didn't call again. He sent an email. I hope you're satisfied. You've destroyed this family over money and pride. When you're ready to apologize and make this right, I'll be waiting. But Grandma Joanne needs to sign over that apartment. I didn't respond. Christmas approached. I spent it with Grandma Joanne, Patricia, and James's family. We decorated the penthouse, carefully because Grandma Joanne tired easily but joyfully. She was getting stronger every day, both physically and emotionally. I feel free, she told me on Christmas Eve as we sat by the window watching snow fall over the city. For the first time in months, I feel free. Does that make me terrible? No, Grandma. It makes you human. Christmas morning came with an unexpected gift. My phone rang, James sounding gleeful. Turn on the local news. I did. The story was everywhere. Prominent businessman's wife arrested for elder abuse, read the headline. Victoria's mugshot. Byron's. Shannon's. But worse, Dad's company was being investigated. Apparently, Victoria had been forging his signatures for months, making questionable financial decisions, funneling money to her children. Dad was ruined. Not by me, by the woman he'd chosen over his own mother. The preliminary hearing was set for January 15th. James prepared me thoroughly, but nothing could prepare me for walking into that courtroom and seeing Dad sitting behind Victoria, Byron, and Shannon. He looked older, defeated. He didn't meet my eyes. The prosecution presented their case methodically. Patricia's video played on the big screen. You could hear the gasps from the gallery when Byron told Grandma Joanne she'd lived long enough. When Victoria laughed as they threw out her photos. Photos of my mother, of me as a child, of our family before it shattered. The defense tried to paint Grandma Joanne as manipulative, me as a vengeful daughter seeking attention. Their lawyer suggested that elderly people sometimes exaggerate situations for sympathy. Then Patricia took the stand. Calm, professional, devastating. She described finding Grandma Joanne's blood pressure dangerously high from stress. The hypothermia risk from sitting in the cold. The terror in her eyes. She begged them, Patricia said, her voice steady despite her tears. She begged them not to throw out the photo of her daughter, Lillian's mother, who died of cancer. And Mr. Byron Jordan picked it up, looked directly at her and threw it out the window. The frame shattered on the sidewalk. Mrs. Jones sobbed like I've never heard a person sob. The courtroom was silent. Even the defense lawyer looked uncomfortable. At recess, Dad approached me in the hallway. Lillian, can we talk? Now you want to talk? I didn't know it would go this far. I thought. He stopped. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday. What you did was betray your own mother. I know. But please, isn't there a way to make this stop? Make it stop. I stared at my father, this man I barely recognized. You want me to drop the charges? To let them walk away after what they did? They'll go to prison, Lillian. Real prison. Is that what you want? For your family. They're not my family, Dad. Grandma Joanne is my family. Patricia, who cared for her when her own son wouldn't, is more family than you've been in years. I stepped closer. Do you know what the saddest part is? Mom would have forgiven you for moving on. She would have wanted you to be happy. But she would never forgive you for what you allowed to happen to the woman who raised you. The woman who raised me when you couldn't. His face crumpled. I loved your mother so much. When she died, I died too. No, Dad. You gave up. There's a difference. I took a breath, forcing myself to stay calm. The charges stand. All of them. What happens next is up to the jury, but I won't pretend this didn't happen to protect your feelings. The trial lasted 4 weeks. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all major charges. Victoria got 8 years. Byron got 6. Shannon, who'd cooperated and shown genuine remorse, got 3 years probation and community service. Dad filed for divorce while Victoria was being sentenced. Too little too late. Grandma Joanne passed away 18 months later, peacefully in her sleep, in her beautiful penthouse overlooking the city she loved. I was holding her hand. Her last words were, "Tell your mama I kept my promise." I took care of her baby girl. At her funeral, Dad came. We didn't speak. We stood on opposite sides of the grave, 2 strangers mourning the only person who'd truly held our family together. As they lowered her coffin, I realized I was crying not just for Grandma Joanne, but for everything we'd lost. My mother, my father, the family we could have been. Sometimes doing the right thing costs everything. Sometimes standing up for those we love means losing people we thought we needed. But as I stood there, remembering Grandma Joanne's smile when I gave her those keys, her joy in her final comfortable years, I knew I'd make the same choice again. Justice isn't always satisfying. Sometimes it's just sad and necessary, and you learn to live with the weight of it. If you've experienced family betrayal or elder abuse, please reach out to Adult Protective Services. You don't have to fight alone. Share your story in the comments. Sometimes knowing we're not alone makes all the difference. Subscribe for more stories about standing up for what's right even when it costs everything.